WALB News 10, your choice 2020.
Good evening, and thank you all so much for tuning in tonight. We're going to have a one-of-a-kind show catered just for you. I'm Damon Arnold, of course, and my wonderful co-host is the one and only Emily Forrester. She's going to join us from our brand new WALB digital studio. Emily, we've got a lot in store tonight, and you've got a lot of new gadgets over there to help tell those stories this year, and I want to see what you got going on for us. Walk us through it.
Yeah, we sure do, Damon. Thank you so much. The WALB Digital Studio is designed to help us share up-to-the-minute breaking news. Go ahead and show this to you. I'm going to pull it up for you on your screen, and you can see here we're tracking electoral votes for the presidential race. You see here on this map the solid blue and solid red colors are the states that have already been called, and you can see here how much of the vote has already come in, who the race has been called for in that state.
We have extended team coverage lined up for you. Jamie Worsley and Nia Humphrey are following the two biggest elections in the state. Both of Georgia's U.S. Senate seats are going to be up for grabs, and tonight we're tracking several voting issues across the state as well. In Spalding County, voting machines caused major problems. Officials say that workers incorrectly loaded information into the poll pads. Here in Dougherty County, it wasn't messed up machines or any major blunders, but it was the wrong polling location. They went to a precinct that was previously at a community center but had moved because of renovations. WALB News 10's Jamie Worsley is joining us live. Jamie, you talked to some of these voters today. What were their thoughts on this situation? Joining us now is Dr. Sarah Cook, an award-winning distance educator. She's the Executive Director of Academics for E-Major Collaborative Programs and tenured Associate Professor of Political Science over at Albany State University. Well, again, I thank you so much for joining us today and tonight, that is. Now, the Peach State has definitely been in the spotlight this year. You and me, we both know that, and both Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden and President Donald Trump have made it clear that Georgia is on their minds. They've been using town halls, virtual visits, and bus tour rallies to rally in those votes in their favor, and that's for a good reason. We know that Georgia was once a reliably red state, but it swiftly turned into a battleground state back in 2018. That's where we saw Governor Brian Kemp win that election against Democratic opponent Stacey Abrams by only a 1.4% margin. Now, in a recent New York Times article, journalist Richard Fawcett credits the transition to Georgia's growing diversity. Now, Dr. Cook, you've worked with millennials for several years now. What have the conversations been like for you and your students leading into this election cycle? Are there any major key points that you've noticed students gravitate towards?
So students are always very interested in social issues.
In addition to Georgia's 2018 gubernatorial race, voters in the Peach State prove time and time again that their loyalties for political parties are fluid. Now, Ballotpedia, which is a non-profit and nonpartisan online political encyclopedia, identified 206 counties that voted for Trump in 2016 after voting for Obama from 2008 and in that 2012 election. Now, 5 of those pivot counties are in Georgia, and that includes Baker and Dooley.
WALB News 10, your choice 2020.
Well, thanks for joining us tonight here on WALB for all your latest election coverage. Of course, you can watch us on our Facebook Live right now, WALB.com, and our WALB News 10 app for our 2-hour-long broadcast for elections. But of course, we're broadcasting on NBC right now as well. So we want to go ahead and go through some of the biggest races and the results for you. Of course, we're tracking the presidential race. We've got some updates for you right now. We're looking at the electoral votes here on the bottom of your screen. So of course, incumbent Republican candidate, current President Donald Trump, has got 72 electoral votes as of now. Joe Biden, the Democratic candidate for president, has 85, and so you need 270 electoral votes to win.
It's a historic night for the United States of America. It's what our children and our children's children will learn about in years to come. And Georgia is at the bat to play a very significant role. This hour, votes are rolling in for not only the presidential election, but the Peach State's 2 major U.S. Senate seats. And both Republican incumbents face Democratic challenges in what is shaping up to be a tight race tonight. Joining me now to break this down and what these positions mean for you and the rest of the the country are political analysts. We have Jesse Lee, who is the Vice President of Communications at the Center for American Progress Action Fund. And on the other side of the table is Jessica Anderson. She's the Executive Director of Heritage Action for America. Anderson has worked in politics for over a decade now, including a stint in the Trump administration where she served as an Associate Director in the Office of Management and Budget. She also landed on the 30 for 30 Forbes list for law and policy in 2017. Jesse and Jessica, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's really good to see you. Let's go ahead and jump right into this. Georgia voters turned out in droves this year to cast those votes early voting, surpassing turnout from 2016 presidential elections by a long shot. So what are some of the differences that we're seeing in voters that are casting their votes this year, especially during a global pandemic, than we would see from a standard voter 4 years ago? Jesse, let's go ahead and start with you.
Yeah, I think a defining characteristic of this election has been that people feel neglected and left behind.
Now, you spoke about the coronavirus, so let's go ahead and get into that. We know that's one of the big focal points of the election this year. Safety has been a topic of discussion during the campaign season. Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden and running mate Kamala Harris have taken shots at the president and the vice president, calling for Republicans to take more precautions. So this after President Trump contracted the virus as well, and more recently, we've seen outbreaks among Mike Pence's staffers as well. So what does that say about each party's view on the CDC guidelines? Jessica, you have the floor now.
Well, I think first and foremost, we all have to recognize that the coronavirus is a very contagious virus. This is not something that should be treated lightly.
The outcome of the presidential election will likely hinge on a handful of swing states. So what states are we watching and why do they have that swing status? WALB's very own Washington News Bureau reporter Ted Felicio breaks it all down for us.
Before we talk about the states that play this election day, we need to know why states become swing states.
And we'll continue to keep you updated on those races and give you those results as they become available to our newsroom.
Jamie, thank you so much for watching that race for us. I want to move on to you, Nia. You're going to be seeing a similar situation play out in Georgia's top Senate race. David Perdue faces two challengers, one being Democrat Jon Ossoff, who's led a fierce campaign to up that seat to the incumbent. Now, what are those candidates telling you right now? Ago that there were four men who were fighting to keep their seats. Now, the one we're tracking closely this hour is Representative Sanford Bishop. The Democrat was first elected to Congress back in 1992. Before that, he served in the Georgia House of Representatives from the 1977 to 1990, and then he was in the Georgia Senate from 1991 to 1992. His opponent, Don Cole, is a former speechwriter for the U.S. Agriculture Secretary, Sonny Perdue. Over the years, Cole has advocated as a private citizen for various public policies at the state capitol. WALB News 10's Bobby Portavant is going to be joining us live now with the latest on that race. Bobby, what can you tell us?
That's only the beginning.
Hey Damon, I'm here in Cordele at the Lake Blackshear Resort and Golf Club. Now this is where Don Cole is having his watch party, and he is surrounded tonight by a lot of energy, and that energy is coming from supporters, family, and friends, all here, all behind me in their conference center. They're watching the result.
And looking at this special election for the Senate seat, Kelly Loeffler, the Republican candidate, is defending that seat. This is Johnny Isakson's seat, and whoever wins this election will be carrying out the rest of his term. He had resigned last year because of health issues. So that's on your screen there. Loeffler, who currently has the seat, is running against 20 other people. So Democrat Raphael Warnock and Republican Doug Collins are sitting there at the top.
Now, it could happen again. If the election is close, the winner of the popular vote might not be the winner of the presidency. So it's important for you to go ahead and remember that when you cast your ballot. If you haven't, you know, I'm pretty sure you have, because it's after 7, or it's really after 9 now here in Georgia. But you're actually going to be voting for a set of electors who choose the president. And we have our Washington bureau chief who's going to tell us what the Electoral College is and how it works. This is very important to pay attention to, and we're going to debate its future over the years. So let's go ahead and take a look at this.
The Electoral College is written in the Constitution. Article 2, Section 1, to be exact. Hans von Spakovsky from the Heritage Foundation believes the Founding Fathers got it right.
They were afraid that if you had a